Hello, my dear warriors. I'm Dr. Shruti Joshi, and I am here with the daily answer writing challenge for this upcoming PSIR Mains 2026. So, the first question which I gave you was on post behavioral approach, and the question falls within the topic political theory, meaning, and approaches. You can figure out in the syllabus also. Now, what is the reason I gave as the first question post behavioral approach was that last year, that is 2025, two questions on approaches have come up. One was philosophical approach, another was a comparison between behavioral versus institutional approach. Since post-behavioralism has not been asked for almost past 2-3 years, that's the reason. I personally feel that this year for mains 2026 post-behavioral approach appears to be very, very important. Let's straight away look into that answer. Okay student, chalo question पढ़ते हैं. The question says post-behavioralism was not a total rejection of behavioralism but its organic refinement to meet the existential crisis of its time. In the light of this statement, critically examine David Easton's Credo of Relevance and Action and evaluate its significance in contemporary political inquiry. ठीक है. So like I always suggest in the class also कि अगर कोई question आता है तो first of all you need to figure out the keywords. Let's figure out the keyword. The first important keyword is post-behavioralism. The second important keyword or keywords is not a total rejection of behavioralism. Next is its organic refinement. Next keyword is existential crisis of its time. This is very important. In the light of this statement, critically examine. So you have to examine it critically. What you have to examine and on which important 2 points you have to concentrate more. This is Credo of Relevance and Action. And also you have to evaluate its contemporary significance. So this particular question is of 250 words. This is 20 marker. How we are going to start. First of all, let me tell you I am not going to give you the entire answer, of course, because it's all about subjectivity. Also, you should try hard to create your own idea, no, regarding answer writing. तो अभी मैं आप लोगों को क्या बता रही हूँ? I'm just going to give you few of the important ways in which you can write your answer. So few important markers or pointers which are sine qua non for this particular answer that I'm going to tell you. ठीक है? And rest, of course, you can always expand or you can even compress the answer as per the word limit. ठीक है? So just the highlights of the entire answer I am going to discuss. सबसे पहले if this kind of question comes up, what you need to do, you need to figure out that I have to split this entire answer into different zones, right? So basically I had tried to split it into 4 or 5 structural zones. Let's figure out what it is. Firstly, we need to start with an introduction. Now, since this is a 250 word question, it is a 20 marker. Definitely, you have to start with an introduction. Introduction becomes very, very important. Introduction where you can just start writing that out of the two major modern approaches, post-behavioralism comes out to be one of the most important and recent approach which has come up to study political theory. इस तरह से करके you can always create a kind of connection also in your introduction regarding behavioralism and post-behavioralism as well. Now change the para. Now this is going to be your body. Body में सबसे पहले what you are going to write. So you are going to take forward the context hook. ठीक है? Reason because I told you कि question ने बड़े clearly लिखा है existential crisis of its time. So definitely you have to figure out regarding what was this time-based idea. Right? So मैंने क्या लिखा है? I've just giving you the indicative points. So मैंने उसमें क्या लिखा है? What to write? Start directly with the historical context of 1969, mentioning that how David Easton had an address in 1969 at the American Political Science Association. That story we all know. मैं class में भी बता चुकी हूँ. In the presidential address it all happened and how then he makes a shift towards post-behavioralism. This is one very small, in just one line, in a small way, you can just figure out that how this entire post-behavioral journey company started also. Okay? Now continue writing that what is the core premise. The core premise is that we have to figure out, we have to explain that the post-behavioral revolution arose because behavioralism was too much obsessed towards pure and value-free empiricism. Behavioralism के दौर पे बहुत ज़्यादा concentration हो रहा था on empirical ideas, on objective ideas, right? On facts, on figures. So the political science were over-obsessed with a value-free empiricism. So what is the context? Context is this. The over-obsession towards value-free empiricism is the context. So this made discipline blind to severe societal turmoil. And what is the timeline? And exactly I wanted you people to figure out what is the timeline. Timeline is somewhere in 1960s. So in 1960s, what was happening in the world? The world has gone through the Vietnam War. World have seen several civil rights movements also coming up in US. Widespread racial riots also world have seen. Constant threat of nuclear annihilation world have seen. Deeper global poverty that world has seen. So इस point में what you are going to write कि एक inside paradox चल रहा है. On one hand behavioralism is at its absolute zenith. जिस समय डेविड ईस्टन पोस्ट बिहेवियरलिज्म का सोच रहे थे उस समय बिहेवियरलिज्म वाज एट इट्स एब्सोल्यूट जेनिथ, perfecting complex statistical methods, charts, mathematical models, turning out to be purely empiricism, grounded into empiricism. But then what was happening in the real world mein things were very much different. Okay, now continue writing. So now what happened? Behavioralism remained within this global crisis a silent spectator. It had no practical answers. It had no policy solution. It had transformed political science into an ivory tower, into an academic exercise which was very much elusive for common people. It was totally socially irrelevant. So this was few of the reasons why now David Easton, the same person, started thinking about another revolution which he termed as post-behavioralism. So like what I have written, this therefore represents a evolutionary synthesis, retaining the scientific tools of behavioralism while re-injecting the ethical conscience of classical normative theory. Right? So this is what in the first paragraph you are supposed to write. Okay, now in the next paragraph we are going to explain what it exactly been asked in the question, that post-behavioralism is marked by the twin principle of Credo of relevance and action. So technically we have already discussed what was behavioralism, what was the crisis going on in short, and now in a very systematic way we will make another paragraph move. We have to figure out that yes, post-behavioralism was nothing but an organic refinement of a behavioral revolution. So are we supposed to write some few of the student might come up with an idea that should we write all the 7-point manifesto of post-behavioralism? So as far as this question is concerned, word limit is restricted. We are not supposed to write all the 7 principles of post-behavioral revolution. In some other video definitely I would be discussing it. We are straight away going to David Easton's twin parameters, that is Credo of relevance and action. But in just one way, I would just tell you what are the 7 principles of post-behavioralism. One, of course, we all know is substance over technique. Second is emphasis on social change. Third is touch with reality. Fourth is restoration of values. Next is protection of civilizational values. Sixth is action-oriented science. And last is politicization of the profession. These are the 7 important principles of post-behavioralism, but we are not supposed to write them. What we are going to write, we are just going to restrict ourselves to Easton's twin parameters. So now within post-behavioralism, once Easton has realized that somehow substance has not been taken or given more importance, so now he started talking about substance over technique. So relevance means how you should give more importance to substance. Substance matlab all kind of real world social realities must be given very, very much important. And techniques of course are important, but they should not precede the substance, right? Social change rather than defending the status quo became the tagline of post-behavioral revolution. Values needs to be restored. So this means, again, as the question says, whether post-behavioralism was an organic refinement, you would say yes, because techniques are still being considered important, but somehow substance or values are given now much more importance. Second important thing which David Easton has said is action. He says now an action-oriented approach is being required. required. Intellectuals cannot always remain in ivory towers. They cannot remain passive. Knowledge must be translated into practice. And as the famous quote of David Easton goes, to know is to bear the responsibility for acting. So this is, in a short way, you are going to discuss the credo of relevance and action in the second paragraph. Okay, now the third paragraph will include the critical evaluation, because critically examine is clearly been written in the question. So now, in order to cross this 6, or I must say the 10 marks barrier, the answer must definitely have some counter perspective. Now, what are the two very important criticism which happened from on post-behavioralism? One was a scientific backlash. Who gave the scientific backlash? It was the rigid empiricist who argued that post-behavioralism was extremely backward step, since it was taking political science backward towards unscientific subjective philosophy, right? So this was the one empiricist critique. The second was the ideological risk or the threat. So critiques such as Edward Shills, they argued that an action-oriented science would turn universities into volatile political battlegrounds, compromising objective research. So these were the two very important criticism, or the critique which came out on post-behavioralism. You are again going to change the paragraph, and now we have to write contemporary relevance. So what is the 21st century value addition, which you can figure it out. Now this question, the USP of this question actually is these two important things: how you are critically evaluating and how you are linking it with contemporary relevance, right? So we can always say that post-behavioralism has since then been a dominant operating system for political science till today. The framework is very, very vital for addressing modern existential challenges, be it the climate change, governance, ethics of artificial intelligence, global democratic backsliding. You can also say that these are not purely technical problems which require data, but they are more deeply moral crises requiring value-based political policies, right? So this is the way you are going to end your answer. Now the most important thing which students you should understand is that, and that was the gist of this question, that you should always remember that post-behavioralism is actually not the destruction of behavioralism. Rather, it is its organic evolution. It preserves the scientific tools of data collection, but at the same time give them a moral conscience as well. Right? So this is the way you should write ideally a good answer. And we will continue having this exercise further also. Till that time, you kindly continue understanding and discussing this question. There could be a peer review also on the questions which I have already been posted. And I request all the students to take forward this exercise in Telegram, and you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, Aradhya, the Gateway of Knowledge. I'll be posting another question. We will continue having this session. Till that time, keep studying. All force to PSIR. All the very best.